It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the Dixie Line Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our NFL Draft Day podcast as we go towards the great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host with his opinions from left field. He violated, by the way, the dress code today. John Riley is with us. We're going to be with you for the next hour plus. It's NFL Draft Day. We have a spectacular array of stories to talk about. We're going to be active. You're going to be active with us when we are done. This podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects, they've got materials. If you want ideas, whether it's for something in the house, whether it's at work or it's at the pool, on the patio, in the backyard, think Dixie Line Lumber. Go to dixieline.com to find out all the things they have. And we're also brought to you today by Hourlads Draft Guide. The draft is upon us, but there's still time for you to not only subscribe to get the draft guide, but then to get the NFL book that they'll present as the preseason camps are opening, which also includes their draft recap. Just go to hourlads.com to subscribe, get the PDF version, get on the mailing list. Then you'll get the pre-training camp publication too. John Riley, it's cool. What a great day. If you love the NFL, this is a day you work for, you get excited about. And I reflect back because you and I have talked extensively about great people that we interacted with covering the National Football League draft. And back in the day, we did a 9-hour draft day broadcast from San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium when the Chargers were here and we were the voice of the Chargers and the fans came out in droves. It was really cool. Draft is still really significant. It is the marquee event of the offseason of the National Football League. How are you? You interested in this? You excited about this?
It's like a national holiday for a lot of sports fans. And I remember when you were at 1090 and you did the locally produced version of it in the 80s and early 90s. I mean, that was pretty revolutionary back in the day.
Yeah, nobody had done what we had done. And the Chargers would have a draft party in this big room at Jack Murphy Stadium. And the Charger backers, which was a big fan club that had been in existence for a long time, they would fill the place. There'd be 200 fans there at least, packed to the gills. And we started to bring our broadcast there. And so we did, the draft went on and on. We did 9 hours. We did a 9-hour draft. We got just beyond the first round. And we had a whole table with risers, and our broadcast team was there. And Pat Curran was in the war room in the back, and he was on the phone with us. And it was me and Jim Laslovic. It was a great draft guy, worked for the Union Tribune. He passed on. Joe Stein, he was a draft junkie, and then Bill Werndell became part of it. Then John Quintero became part of it. We did draft coverage like nobody's ever been dedicated to do it before. But man, it was a lot of fun. The fans, it was so cool. You had big screen TVs and. Yeah. Draft day. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. It starts at 5 o'clock tonight, right?
Yeah, just after 5 p.m. And obviously, we're going to talk extensively about that. Couple of business notes. When we're done with our draft day podcast, with all the hot topics on the table, we're going to open it up for you. And we want NFL football fans to pile in here with opinions or questions or comments. It's called Fans Forum. John, just describe that for all of our followers.
Okay, so we already see a few guys in here. Schickster and Joel are already jumping in. Hey, if you got a comment or question in the world of sports for Hacksaw, just drop your hot take in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
A couple of other items. If you like sports, I wrote about the draft today on my website. Check it out sometime during the course of the day or when the podcast is over. And check it every morning for information. It's leehacksawhamilton.com. Break down a ton of different stories, not just about football or the NFL, but obviously about all things baseball, the NBA playoffs, what's happened in the National Hockey League, etc. We cover it all, leehacksawhamilton.com. Also want you to be part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You'll get a special email every day with things I'm doing. You can subscribe on the Insiders Group. Just go to the orange box on the homepage and fill it out. Get on the email list. I want you to follow me on social media. Become part of my Twitter All-Star team on X. Just type in my handle at Hacksaw1090, at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button so when I put something up on social media, it'll flash right into your account. I want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays at 1:30, Thursdays at 1:30, and we want you to subscribe. If you subscribe on the YouTube channel and the others, you will get the alerts every time we put something up video-wise on our YouTube channel, and we do that a lot during the course of the week. So there's lots of ways for you to get involved in addition to what we do Mondays and Thursdays. Did I miss anything?
No, you got them all. It's a lot on their table.
I got a lot of topics on the table.
Yes, you do.
Right here. Okay, let's get going. John, first things first, NFL draft day. Where do you want to start?
Well, yeah, let's start with the draft. And you made your own sort of top 10 list.
Yeah, it's really hard to go through all 32 picks in the first round. Would be here forever. But what we did, we just decided to go ahead and look at what is projected for the top 10 choices on this draft board. Now, there have been no trades as of now. Everybody owns their first round picks. That's never happened before since 1967. But that does not mean that there might not be something that's going to happen. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Tennessee, it appears universally, is going to take the Miami Hurricane quarterback, Cam Ward. Most everybody of the opinion, he's a gunslinger. And suddenly, in the last 24 hours, now the story is surfacing. Tennessee Titans are shopping last year's starting quarterback, Will Levis, after indicating he was going to be here and he was going to compete for the job and he was going to stay here, et cetera, et cetera. So it looks as if Tennessee's going to have a new quarterback, and it looks like it's going to be Cam Ward. Second pick, Cleveland. This has to happen. Travis Hunter. This, obviously, the iconic cornerback, Heisman Trophy winner, the unicorn. He'll go to the Cleveland Browns. I guess the big debate in Cleveland right now, I texted back and forth with a friend of mine in the media there who covers the Browns. I said, there's a big debate whether it's Travis Hunter or somebody else, or is it just the debate what position Travis Hunter is going to play? And that's the big debate in Cleveland. Is he a better wide receiver than he would be a cornerback? So Cleveland, Travis Hunter. Third one, the Giants. They are desperate for a quarterback, but there's not a quarterback to be taken that high. This guy's really good. ABDUL Carter. This is an off-the-ball blitz pressure defensive end pseudo linebacker. He's a monster. Sacks, tackles for losses, pressure. ABDUL Carter, Penn State, does it all. The fourth one is New England. And they met over the weekend for a second time with this guy, Will Campbell, a big left tackle from LSU. Theory is he big enough to play left tackle, or might he really be better inside as a left guard? But it looks as if New England might be taking Will Campbell. Jacksonville is next. And most everybody of the opinion they are going to take Mason Graham, the massive, high-energy defensive tackle, University of Michigan. They have to do something like that because they gave up 390 yards a game in a disaster of a season in Jacksonville. If those first 5 picks fall the way they are, then the top running back in the country is going to be there, and they'll be celebrating in Vegas. Raiders, ASHTON, JEANTY. They got to fix this offense, and JEANTY is a piece of that equation, along with the quarterback, Geno Smith. Now, they still need help in the offensive line. They still need help to go get a wide receiver. They probably need some defensive line help, too. A lot of people writing this week, JEANTY has the ability to be the next LaDainian Tomlinson. Pick 7 belongs to the New York Jets, and they need help lots of places. Of course, obviously, the Aaron Rodgers era is over. This guy's really climbed the board from the University of Missouri. ARMAND MEMBOU. He is going to be the starting left tackle for the New York Jets if he winds up going there at 7. Carolina needs all types of defensive help. This is the best cover corner, tough guy, cornerback out of Texas, J.D. Barron. He'll go to the Carolina Panthers at 8. New Orleans is the weird one because they've got roster problems. They got Derek Carr salary cap problems, and they've obviously going to have a quarterback problem. There's all kinds of rumors that at one time they were looking at Shedeur Sanders, but that conversation didn't go well. And now they're looking at Jackson Dart. The only question is the Ole Miss quarterback, and he's gotten progressively better and better as they've gone on. Is that awful high to take him? Might you be better served to trade back a little bit, still get the chance to draft them and stockpile additional draft choices? But it looks like Saints and Dart are the right combo. And then the 10th pick is going to be Tyler Warren, we hear. Tight end, H-back, fullback, multi-purpose, tough guy out of Penn State. You're adding that kid to Caleb Williams, the rebuilt offensive line, because the Bears made a couple of trades in the offseason to go get 2 offensive line starters. All this is coming now under the umbrella of the new head coach, Ben Johnson. So this is going to be really, really fascinating. Now, are a couple of alternative things that have kind of surfaced on the floor of the draft in Green Bay this afternoon. One is that Jacksonville, as much as they need Mason Graham, might instead take Austin Jeanty at 5, which would then deny the Raiders the chance to get him. That would be a bit of a shocker. However, I've also been told from Vegas people that if that scenario happens, Jacksonville changes its mind, takes the running back, the Raiders at 6 would then just take the defensive tackle. And they need the defensive tackle because some other things are happening with veteran players on their roster. So keep an eye on that. So on the draft board right now, everything seems set in stone unless somebody does something different. If Jacksonville does something different that forces the Raiders to do something different, and then what does New Orleans do at 9? Stay there, take the quarterback probably above from where he should be taken, or trade back some. So, John, pretty good-looking board you and our mascot Sniffer put together. What do you think about the way this thing's laid out? Anything you buy, anything you disagree with? Flash that board back up so people can see it again.
Okay, there's a lot going on here. Yeah. So a couple of comments. First of all, the way you describe Tyler Warren, this kind of Mr. Versatile, it's almost like the Scatabo kid from Arizona State, maybe just like a bigger, more enhanced version of him.
Yes.
And then in your one man's opinion, you were sharing a sort of a mock first-round draft by the writers at The Athletic.
Yes.
And they had Shedeur Sanders going number 6 to the Raiders. So why are you not seeing it the same way as them?
Just because everybody that I've networked with is of the opinion Shedeur has really fallen like a cement block in a pond. He has drifted way back into the first round. Some people have the opinion it might be the back total end of the first round before he gets taken. There's just too many glitches in his game, and then it's all supplemented by attitude and entitlement and how he's interacted with some of these people during the draft meetings and workouts. You know, I think he's hurt his own credibility with his entitlement, with his attitude. When he told the Giants weeks ago, I don't need to work out for you. I got 4 years of video. Just go watch me at Jackson State in Colorado. Then he changed his mind and he worked out Thursday in Boulder for just the New York Giants. This is after all this negativity has flowed around him. So each writer covering all these different teams has different ideas, but they're are the ones that are dealing with the clubs on a day-to-day basis, face-to-face. So that's why the writers' poll on the draft was really kind of cool to come across, and that's why I got it and put it up on our website so fans could see what the guys with a close-up perspective of each of the clubs they cover, what they think. I'm not sure why the Raider beat writer would pick Shedeur Sanders at 6 when nobody at this point is thinking Shedeur Sanders is the guy.
Yeah, the other interesting name on there was Jackson Dart at number 9. And, you know, we were not sure if he was even a first-round pick, but he's been kind of rising in the polls.
He's played pretty well the last 2 years at Ole Miss. He got better and better. Then he worked out for people, combine, etc., and then private workouts. He just seems to have grown in the estimation. Is he an instant star? No, I don't think so. He's probably, to me, based on what I get from other people, he's probably a better lock to be somewhere after 15 to 32, get drafted there. 9 to me is awful high. But New Orleans is in such a desperate situation now with this uncertainty about Derek Carr, and they lost their tackles, and they got salary cap problems. They got to get a quarterback. Otherwise, it can be a miserable season in New Orleans, and they'd I don't know whether Derek Carr is going to be traded, whether he's going to be released. Anybody wants him at this point, and there's a cap figure. They're going to take a bad cap hit if they do that. So New Orleans is a mess. Dart might be the guy, but I don't know if Dart's the right guy at 9. Maybe if you trade back to 15 or even as far back as 18, somebody else wants a run on one of these defensive players. You could still get Dart there, and then New Orleans could pick up additional draft capital.
Interesting. Now, the one other question I had, remember when we were doing the draft podcast episode with John Cooper from Hourlads, we were doing the analysis position by position, and you had Abdul Carter as a defensive end, but you had a whole other category of what you called edge guys, edge rushers. But is Abdul Carter an edge guy, or is he plays the pass and the run on the defensive line?
Both, because I think he's a down defensive end who's got pass rush ability. But Penn State used him all over the place. They'd have him down the 3-point stance. They would drop him off the line of scrimmage and have him come. He has made such great progress as a rush guy from different dimensions. He's a really fine football player.
Yeah, I'm interested in learning more about it. But look at this. There's 2 Penn State guys in the top 10.
Exactly. Well, Penn State, pretty good football team this past season.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's a start. That's how the top 10 looks. If you're a football fan with us on this podcast, get into the fans forum chat box. Got a question, got a statement to make, at least with the rankings of the top 10. All right, John, next question has to do the teams here in Southern California.
Yeah, you're wearing the Bolts today. So what do you think the Chargers are going to be doing in this draft?
I'll ask this question. Aside from the quarterback, Justin Herbert, would you please tell me if the Chargers have any other playmakers? That's a big issue. Now you got Justin Herbert, and you got the sensational rookie season of Ladd McConkey. Do they have anybody else that scares you offensively? Another wide receiver with speed? Nah. Breakaway running back with speed? Nah. Big-time tight end? Nah. And now with Joey Bosa having defected to Buffalo and Khalil Mack on a 1-year contract, do they really have pass rush expertise? Nah. So they got needs for playmakers in a lot of different areas. Now the Bolts are going to have 3 picks in the top 85. These are the names that at this point we think might be there. TETA McMillan, University of Arizona. That's a 6'4" wide receiver with an extra gear who's gotten progressively better and better. He caught a lot of passes at Arizona in the last year and a half. He might be there at 22. If he's not, then it means the Ohio State wide receiver, EMEKA EGBUKA, probably will. The thing about EGBUKA, he's 6'2", he's got speed, he's slick, and he can run the entire, what they call, route tree. All the different types of routes a wide receiver would run coming off the line of scrimmage. This kid, 22 might be a little high, but if the other guy's gone, that might be the right guy. They need a running back. Now, granted, they got Najee Harris from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they really need somebody with burst and speed. And maybe that's going to be Hampton out of North Carolina, who can run it and who can also catch it. I think they're desperately in need of defensive line help. They lost both their inside tackles, the 2 veterans who jumped. Poona Ford went to the Rams. Morgan Fox went to, was it Atlanta or Carolina? Anyhow, either one of those 2 guys inside are gone. Derek Harmon is quick. I call him quick twitch. Creates a lot of traffic in the backfield, tackles for lost guys. Not a big pass rusher, but just a big physical specimen. He's out of Oregon. He might be there. And if he's gone, the other Michigan man, Kenneth Grant, who's kind of a warrior, he's different than Mason Graham, but he's the other Michigan defensive tackle. He might be there. So I would think at 22, it's going to come from one of those guys. I'm not sure McMillan will be there. I do think the Ohio State wide receiver will be there. I like the defensive tackle. He might be there. And if something strange happens, and there are always surprise picks, something happens before the 22nd pick comes up, then maybe Grant becomes the guy. But the Chargers have to get a playmaker, whether it's a receiver or whether it's somebody defensive. Got to get a playmaker on that roster. So, John, what do you think about that list?
It's an interesting list because you're right. When you thought, I was thinking of names in my head of who scares you, and I was thinking McConkey was definitely the receiver, but after that, nobody. They had a lot of guys, but they let him go a couple of years ago, like Keenan Allen. So they need something. I mean, the Chargers brand is all about, passing. It's Dan Fouts. It's everything about what, you expect from the Chargers, some, thunder and lightning.
Yeah. Fouts to Rivers, etc. Now to Justin Herbert, but they need people around him.
So what do you said Najee Harris is going to be there. Is he not a guy that's going to scare anyone? Is he just like going to bulldoze and get you 3 or 4 yards kind of guy?
He's a power heavy duty back, does not have a history of injury. That's why they got him, because he's really dependable, but there's no breakaway speed. I'm a little bit surprised they have not re-signed J.K. Dobbins, but they're paying Najee $5.8 million. Dobbins got $5 million last year. They're not going to pay Dobbins $5 million too. That's too expensive for the 2 running backs. And Dobbins has a history of injuries. As good as J.K. Dobbins is, and he's got burst, and he is a tough guy, he is always hurt. He had, 3 different injuries last year. And of course, prior to that, when he was in Baltimore, he had 2 catastrophic injuries. That's why he's still unsigned now, just because the injury tag will go away from him. So there'll be a running back, and if there's not a running back for them to take in the first, then what they don't get in the first, they still can probably get a receiver or a running back, or maybe even another offensive lineman in the second round. So you're a Charger fan. Feel free to jump on board with an opinion. Do you agree with me? They do need more playmakers around Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey. Do they not? All right, we'll go from that. Let's go to the next team.
Yeah, the Rams. You got a list for them as well.
Let's talk about the Rams. Now, I got all kinds of angles to this storyline. Rams don't have a lot of picks. They've got a 1. They don't own a second. They got a 3 and a 3 early on. So that's why the ranking is there at 26, 90, and 101. I think there's a trade coming. I think the Rams could trade both their thirds, get into the second round, and then address another need. Their primary need, I think, is cover corner. They're a little bit thin in that area. And at 26, where they draft, there should be corners there. Max Hairston from Kentucky has tested really well. He's not the top name cover corner, but he's done very well, combine, etc. He'll probably be there maybe at 26. Will Johnson of Michigan, really good player, but there's what appears to be a chronic knee issue that has plagued him 2 years in a row, and that's why his stock is kind of dropped down the board. I think the injury tag is going to be a negative for Will Johnson. Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. He could be a cornerback. He could be a safety. Big physical kid who can run. He should be there. And maybe the wild card is up front. Gray Zabel played at 1AA North Dakota State, and he stayed there. Everybody tried to recruit him to leave North Dakota State and go to the Big Ten. He stayed there. Really good football player. Has been a tackle, can play guard. A lot of people look at him as maybe being a center. So I think one of the Rams' picks is going to come from that collection of names. The other piece of the equation, if they trade both their thirds, and this could happen because Les Snead has made a lot of deals as general manager, they jump into the second round. They go into the second round, depending on whether it's real early in the second round or middle of the second round, maybe they get the quarterback of the future. I've been told they really like the projection and the growth potential of your guy, Jalen Milroe from Alabama.
Oh, nice.
So again, Matthew Stafford is age 37. They really need to be thinking about going forward down road. And if Stafford plays 2 more years, which that's the projection, you'd have 2 years to grow Milroe into being a quarterback. And people have said Milroe could be the next coming of Lamar Jackson. He's not there yet, but Lamar Jackson was not a polished product either. When he came out of Louisville, it took Lamar Jackson 2 to 3 years to, quote, become a star, and now he's a megastar. So keep that in mind. If the Rams pull one of these trades off, and they got 2/3, which to some club out there, in a good draft, 2/3 are pretty valuable. And I'm willing to give up a 2 to get 2 3s. So Rams, take one of these guys and then maybe make a trade and go get the quarterback of the future in the second round. And John Riley says,
Rams don't need no effing draft picks. Yeah, but Les Snead told us that, So,
but what happened last year? Last 2 drafts, they got 5 draft picks who are starters. Because Snead said, okay, we built this thing. We won a Super Bowl. Now we're collecting assets and draft picks. And look what he's done on the draft 2 years running. I mean, exceptional.
Exceptional. It's hard to argue with the Rams organization. But you mentioned maybe Jalen Milroe going there, quarterback of the future. Is Stetson Bennett, is he just done?
Well, he hasn't had a chance to play, and he sat out one entire year with mental health issues. He's hardly ever played outside of a preseason game, and they're with him every day. So they must feel that he's hit his zenith, that this is all he's going to be, and all he's going to be is not good enough to be an NFL starting quarterback.
Interesting.
Maybe somebody's reliable backup guy, but the fact that they met with Milroe, and they've also met with Tyler Shock from Louisville, is obvious to me that they don't think that Stetson Bennett is an NFL-ready quarterback or be a difference maker at quarterback once Matthew Stafford's done.
Interesting how the game doesn't always translate for some of these guys, but he was a stud at Georgia.
Oh, yeah, and he was an older player, too, playing at the collegiate level, but this is a huge jump from there to up here. And then he's got, obviously, the ancillary problems of confidence and mental health, et cetera, which is why he walked away from football for a whole year.
Wow. Interesting. All right, well, then here we go. I mean, the Rams, the Chargers.
You got an opinion, feel free. Fans Forum chat box is open. We are talking NFL football. We're dressed for this. Want you to join us, our draft day broadcast. We're not done. Next topic on the table. This is the part of being a talk show host that I love.
Oh,
I love networking with people about what do you know? What do you hear? What do you think?
Yeah, the trade rumors.
I spent the whole morning on the phone and emailing people. You can't believe how many emails are in my box. That I need. Maybe I get Sniffer or Mascot to come clean out my emails when we're done with the draft. I have so much junk in there. Let's talk about NFL trade rumors. We'll start here, and this thing is evolving as we go. Big story out of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is talking to Green Bay about a deal. They would trade their top wide receiver, George Pickens, to the Packers. Now, I heard they wanted Green Bay's number 1. Now, is Pickens damaged goods? Pickens has been such a talent and such an attitude problem for years and years. And all off season, all the Steelers would say is George Pickens is on this team, and there needs to be a maturity level that he needs to get to, and they haven't seen it. And they haven't seen it in a couple of years. And he's highly erratic, and he's highly volatile, and, there's lapses in concentration. Green Bay needs a stud wide receiver, maybe under a different coaching staff. Maybe he'd be better somewhere else. But that's one of the rumors that Pittsburgh is talking to Green Bay about George Pickens going to the Packers. Now, I don't know if the Green Bay would give up a number 1 or the Green Bay would just want to give up a second-round draft pick. Second trade that's out there. And this got legs to stand on because they know this guy because this guy played for them. LA Rams are talking to Miami about a deal for Pro Bowl cornerback Jalen Ramsey. He's got 2 years left, $48 million on his contract. Rams have cap space to make the deal. Miami wants a third-round pick. Jalen Ramsey is age 31. They need cornerbacks in Miami. This guy can still play, and he played for Sean McVay prior, and then he became a free agent. So keep an eye on that one. If maybe he gets traded at the draft, if not tonight, then maybe tomorrow. But Jalen Ramsey to the Rams is out there. Ramsey's name also surfaced. The Raiders had interested in him too. I'm not sure what to make of this rumor out of Dallas. The Cowboys are dropping hints to their beat people that there's a significant trade coming. And I'm not sure whether they're going to package picks and move up into the first round higher, or whether they're going to go get another first-round pick. I'm just not sure. Not active in free agency at all. Obviously, they've had salary cap issues, but they think they've solved all that. But they're saying there's something coming in Dallas. It might involve veteran player acquisition, so keep an eye on that. Giants, Chiefs. We have talked, John and I have talked extensively over the last group of weeks. Who the hell is your quarterback in the future? New York Football Giants. You know, you went through the chaos you had last year. You let Daniel Jones go. You had nobody at quarterback. Now you go into the marketplace, and now you got two guys at quarterback, but do you have the right two guys on rental deals? There's a report the Giants are talking to Kansas City about trading for the 31st pick in the first round. Kansas City would drop back a couple positions and pick something else up. The Giants, if they got to 31, might take the flyer on Shedeur Sanders at 31. And that maybe is the genesis of why they worked him out on Thursday in Boulder, Colorado.
That's interesting.
So that's interesting. Okay, a couple of others within the last hour. This is from the guys that I network with who are on the floor of the draft. There's continued dialogue that New England might be willing to trade back from number 4 stockpile picks. Mike Vrabel has had just a really good offseason with free agency. They could still get a really good player, say if they went from 4 to 6, 4 to 8, 4 to 10, and get additional choices. So New England has said, for the right price, we might trade back. Houston is trying to find an offensive tackle. Houston's at number 25. They want to trade from 25. They want to trade up. They got multiple choices. Denver is getting offers from clubs. Denver wants to go up to as high as 13. Denver wants Tyler Warren. They're talking to Miami. Denver, Miami, 20 up to 13. Miami would pick up an additional choice. But Denver is also talking to teams behind them. Is there anybody who wants to jump Pittsburgh and maybe get the chance at Shedeur Sanders? Pittsburgh drafts 21. Denver drafts 20. Denver's shopping 20 and say, anybody back there want to leap over Pittsburgh and you want Shedeur Sanders? Play the price is right. And then there's the New Orleans situation as to what they're going to do. So, John, I love this part of the day. I love this part of my job, just taking these notes and talking to these guys who are on the floor of the draft and guys that cover these different teams. So, which trade? I threw a lot at you there. What do you think about Pickens to Green Bay, Ramsey to the Rams? Any other trade rumors there that kind of grabbed you by the shirt?
Well, the one with Shedeur going at 31 to the Giants. I mean, that's making a lot of sense all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So that's intriguing to me. Ramsey, I mean, he was really well thought of when he was with the Rams. And I was trying to figure out how he left. And you said it was free agency, but he's clearly in demand. The Raiders were talking about, wanting to sign him. So I can see how this all plays out. But, it's just the whole vibe during the draft. And, you got the guys on the desk and like, wait, we got a report and we got a trade coming down. And then Goodell walks up to the podium and everybody's like, ooh, who'd he trade for? I love all that.
And then the Jets and Giant fans would boo.
Yeah. Well, that's especially when it was in Radio City Music Hall. It was all the Jets fans would be there. But this will be fun to watch on TV, like you say, Green Bay, and there's going to be all the intrigue. And, we were saying this first round was sort of kind of not sexy because it didn't have as many, quote, skill guys. But if they start making deals and moving things around, this could be pretty entertaining.
How about Green Bay steal the thunder of the draft if they get Pickens from Pittsburgh, attitude and all? He's a big-time player, and they really need help at wide receiver to go with the bright young quarterback, Jordan Love.
Yeah, well, what remind me again what the whole thing on Pickens was that was driving him out of Pittsburgh?
Just attitude and inconsistency and giving up on plays and pouting all the time. It just went on and on and on. And I'm surprised that Mike Tomlin did not grab him by the throat and say, you're going to play the way I want you to play. And that means consistency. But Pittsburgh has had all kinds of problems at wide receiver with divas. Deontay Johnson and what was a running back's name that sat out a whole year and effectively wrecked his career. And Tomlin just haven't been able to control these divas. So it's kind of interesting. And Pickens is right there like Deontay Johnson and the running back they had.
Give me Lynn Swann and John Stallworth.
Back in the day, you think. Okay, so those are trade rumors. That's something else you can pay attention to as we go towards the draft. Final topic on the table before we get to halftime on our Draft Central show. This involves late-breaking stories, lots of other places.
Yeah, lots of other things cooking here with the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame has announced the game in July will feature the Chargers and the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Antonio Gates is going into the Hall of Fame in Canton.
Right on.
That ceremony that weekend. So the Chargers, who have not played in the Hall of Fame game since 1994, will get the chance to play there. So that's kind of cool.
Did you go to that game?
I broadcast.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, we played the Atlanta Falcons. It was a terrible game because, Justin Herbert will play one series and hand off 3 times, and that'll be the extent of his Hall of Fame game experience. But I mean, it's great for the fans, and you get to go to the Hall of Fame. It's so cool. Funniest story. So we're in training camp, and so we go in early to Canton, and we have an hour and a half window just for the Charger traveling party to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I've been there prior, and it's such a great place. So I walk in the door, and I'm just kind of eyeing the players, and the players are walking around, and I look off to the corner where there's a bust. And who's standing is the only guy standing next to that bust. All the other players are in groups. Mm-hmm. Look at this. It's John Carney, the field goal kicker, standing next to the bust of Lou Groza.
Oh, jeez.
Kicker. That was it.
Yeah.
So it was really cool.
Paying homage.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, Hall of Fame game will be the Chargers versus the Detroit Lions the weekend that they enshrine Antonio Gates. ESPN. This is an awful story. How you get yourself involved in this, just stunning. Shannon Sharpe is filing a defamation of character lawsuit against a Texas lawyer and a woman that he dated and had a relationship with. She's accused him of rape. He says it was consensual. The lawyer, Tex Busby, has released an audio file of a phone call in which Shannon Sharpe and the woman got into an argument. He threatened to choke her. Supposedly, he also, the lawyer, is going to release an edited video of the encounter, which Sharpe says was consensual. It was not sexual. And then now Shannon Sharpe is threatening to release texts from the woman who invited him over to get involved. So he says he's innocent, and they both agreed to do whatever they did. The lawyer and her say no, it was outright rape. Shannon Sharpe offered her $10 million just to settle this thing, make it go away. They've asked for $53 million.
Unbelievable.
So now there's all kinds of criticism of Shannon Sharpe. Well, if you did nothing wrong, why would you offer $10 million to walk away? And then Shannon Sharpe is barking, and he's talking about it on TV. He says, they're trying to smear me. They're trying to portray this African-American as being a bad guy who raped a woman. That's not the case. You're a public person, public persona. Why would you ever allow yourself to get involved with this that way? Amazing story there. Terrible story in Chicago. I saw the video clip very early yesterday morning. Legendary 1985 defensive tackle Steve McMichael, who played with the Fridge, Mike Singletary, the Ditka Bears, Jim McMahon, and all that, fought an unbelievable battle against Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. I saw a video clip early yesterday morning. Bears players were at his house. Singletary, Richard Dent, a number of other players, Wilbur Marshall, a few others. They escorted the family and him into hospice. He died last night at 5:30.
Wow.
Hell of a guy. Self-made guy from Texas, University of Texas. 95 quarterback sacks as a defensive tackle. I mean, we always thought the Fridge and Richard Dent were great players. This guy was an equally great player. The most moving thing I saw last summer, speaking of the Hall of Fame, was McMichael was enshrined into the Hall of Fame, but he was bedridden and too ill to attend. Singletary and Richard Dent wore their Hall of Fame jackets to the hospital where McMichael had just been readmitted because of ALS. And they presented McMichael with his plaque and his yellow jacket in his hospital bed.
Oh,
It was so cool. So that's why yesterday when I saw the video of Singletary and those guys at his house accompanying him in his final hours, and I didn't know it was his final hours, but it went to the hospice center. So sad story, but man, he fought double team blocks like a warrior and had 95 sacks. And he fought ALS like a warrior for years and years and years. Nice man. Passed away age 67. Last topic, the Raiders story. They don't need bad news, but Pete Carroll's got bad news. Christian Wilkins, a big money defensive tackle they signed last year from Miami, suffered a major knee injury early in the season. And at the beginning of the season, the Raiders defensive front with him and Max Crosby, they played really well. And every one of those guys got hurt. Christian Wilkins has had another setback and in his rehab and is now going to miss the start of this coming season. Pete Carroll had expected him back. That's a big setback. So that flips back to the first round. If the Raiders don't get JEANTY, then they'll take the defensive tackle from Michigan. They probably have to take a defensive tackle, obviously now because of the Christian Wilkins setback. So we got the Hall of Fame, Shannon Sharpe doing what Shannon Sharpe does. You got the Bears, you got the Raiders. John, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know. Let me see how I can express this thought. You know,
this ought to be a whopper.
Yeah. So we all enjoy you breaking down all the sports, and you've got your hacksaw stick, your gloss, you got the words you say it, how you say it, and the whole style about it. And I love that every minute of it. But whenever we get into a situation where some athlete, goes into the danger zone and starts to get in trouble, and suddenly Hacksaw is reporting on sexual assault cases and rape, that's just really out of character and really kind of unnerving, almost uncomfortable as a listener to hear you get into that.
But you have to cover the story. Don't you have to cover the story?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
And why is he talking about it the way he's talking about it?
Well, Shannon Sharpe is a character in his own right. But, when you're a celebrity like that, you probably attract some of that. You've just got to have a good filter to be able to know who to, push aside and then who you think you can trust. But, the other comment is that the Chicago Bears story, I mean, his dent in the fridge, went into the hospital and brought him the plaque and the jacket. I mean, it's just fantastic. But I'm just thinking, is that 1985 Bears roster is full of like comic book superheroes on that team.
Oh, led by McMahon.
Oh, yeah.
And Perry.
Yeah. And Sweetness.
Yes.
And yeah, certainly the refrigerator. I mean, there's just so many, Ditka, there's so many personalities on that team.
Da Bears.
Yeah. So I just liked hearing that. That was a special
Saturday night skit they did about Ditka was really cool. If you remember that Saturday Night Live.
Well, they always had those guys that were from Chicago.
Yeah.
The Chicago guys and
Second City guys.
Yeah, but there was one skit on SNL where I think, and I've always been trying to find the replay of it, and I can never find it, where they said, well, what do you think 1985 Bears show up and they use Ditka as quarterback, but not a full-size Ditka, but like a half-size Ditka. And, and they go, Bears 82, Dolphins 6.
With the twang.
Yeah, exactly. It's really
cool.
good.
So, we'll think a lot about Steve McMichael. Hell of a guy. Courageous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's the unsung hero on that defensive line. Exactly. We always remember the other two guys.
We get to halftime. Hope you're enjoying this podcast. Hey, Fans Forum chat box is now open for business. Feel free to jump on board. This podcast is brought to you by Our Lads Draft Guide. It's NFL Draft Day. Just a reminder, you still have your chance to get your draft guide, which is a breakdown of all the top players in college football, the scouting reports, and then in the back of the draft guide, they've got the rosters and the depth charts of every team in the NFL. You can go online right now, ourlads.com, subscribe. They will email you immediately the PDF draft guide, but it also guarantees then you'll get the newsletters, and they put out another training camp book with the updates and the recaps of the draft and all the training camp rosters. That comes out in June. So you get 2 for 1. Just go to ourlads.com, get your order in now for the draft guide. It is spectacular. And this podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. I got windows and doors. John wants me to go back to Dixie Line and get bookcases for my Man's Cave library. but he's obviously used Dixie Line too. John, these people cover it all.
Cover it all, man. And one of the things that I was just talking with the folks from Dixie Line this morning, and they're expanding their array of solutions from Trex. Trex is one of the decking providers. They make these composite wood decks that look like wood, but can last like up to 50 years, depending on the version that you get from them. And there's no maintenance. And these things look terrific. And now they're expanding to new kinds of the railing, on the decks, whether it's like steel railing, aluminum railing, all these specialized ways. So if you really want to trick out your backyard and just get it all dialed in with the barbecue and all the seating arrangement, make it a really nice, entertaining venue, composite decking by Trex is available at Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers.
For home, for work, back patio, and the yard, remember the name Dixie Line, and go to the website, dixieline.com, to see all the things they have. Couple of other notes. We do this podcast Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. We cover a ton of topics on the table. I write on my website every day. It's right there. That's the address, leehacksawhamilton.com. When we're done with this podcast today, go to my website, get the written version of some of the latest stories as it relates to the NFL, NBA, NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, golf, soccer, whatever it is, it's always there. Also on the homepage, there's an orange box right on the homepage. That's to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You get on that, you get on my email list. You'll get stuff sent to you day in, day out. Watch on social media, join my Twitter all-star team. Just type in my name, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, hit the follow button. I put a lot of stuff up on social media on a day in, day out basis. And we want you to share, tell everybody what we're doing Mondays and Thursdays. Spread the word about this podcast and subscribe. When you subscribe, you will then get the alerts every time either John or I or our mascot Sniffer, the barking beagle, we put something else on the podcast up on the YouTube channel. You get the alert every time there's something new there. And we do a lot of diverse stuff in addition to the podcast. So you can get access to all of our content. We do a lot of content just by subscribing and, of course, sharing. Give us a 5-star rating. That helps us. Give us a thumbs up. That really helps us, too. Anything you'd like to add to that sales pitch?
Yeah, well, I was just checking is that the YouTube subscriptions are almost at 8,000. It's like 7,900 and change. So if you're listening or watching now, just click on that subscribe button. Let's push you up over 8, and then we'll set our sights on 10,000.
Okay, on we go. Let's move to the second half of this Thursday podcast. All things NFL draft. It'll be fascinating to see what happens in a couple of hours. What's fact, what's fiction. These rumors are just going crazy on the floor of the draft in Green Bay. Turn our attention to balls and strikes, wins and losses. Let's talk baseball, John.
Yeah, Dodgers and the Padres pitching and injury problems.
The Padres are back home. Rugged road trip. They lose 4 of 6 on the road, Houston and Detroit. The bigger issue is the injuries. You forget the Padres have 11 guys on the disabled list right now. I totally forgot. In fact, Jackson Merrill's been out 15 games now with a hamstring. So that hamstring injury was more significant than I think they let on or anybody really understood. Nobody's ready to be activated off the disabled list right now, the injured list. So that's a big issue. They're going to have a decision to make what they're going to do with Kyle Hart, the pitcher from Korea. He's now given up 6 home runs in his starts during the regular season. You add in what happened in spring training. He's given up 10 home runs already this season. He pitches some good innings, and then boom, he gets lit up. Which is the real Randy Vasquez. He's had good innings. He's had a couple of good starts, and he's had some innings in which he can't locate home plate. Padres are wafer thin. Thank goodness for the bulldog that is Michael King, and thank goodness for the pit bull that is Nick Pivetta. But Yu Darvish is nowhere near ready to pitch. Matt Waldron, he's not throwing at all, and he's on the 60-day disabled list. So the Padre pitching staff, at least in the starting rotation, looks to be thin. Luis Arraez got out of the hospital after the very scary collision in Houston, but they decided not to allow him to get on the plane to go to Detroit. They instead, the next day, they kept him overnight, and they sent him here, back home. And he's had neck problems. He's still in concussion protocol, and that's a 7-day issue. He's still got soreness in his jaw area. He did not fracture the jaw, lucky for him. So the Padres are just not a complete baseball team. They get Tampa Bay here, then they get the surprising San Francisco Giants here on this mini homestand. So you got the Padres. The Dodgers. Somebody needs to explain to me the methodology Blake Snell uses to start the season. Blake Snell has suffered another setback, the shoulder thing. They're going to send him for an MRI. The inflammation has returned again. He had one light throwing session, and the next day felt really bad again. I asked this question because we have tracked Blake Snell when he was in Tampa, and then obviously with the Padres. Historically, he was always poor the first half of the season and then was lights out the second half of the season. He's had stints on the disabled list in the first half of a number of different seasons. In fact, I didn't realize he'd been on the DL 9 times in the course of his career. This one looks kind of scary because they don't know why it's developed. But I asked this question about Blake Snell. For somebody that's as old as he is and as mature and has had such success, it leads me to believe he does not prepare in the offseason correctly, that he's so bad the first half of virtually every season in the major leagues. And he's getting paid all this money, and he gives the club that he has a half season of quality starts, the other half he gets lit. His career ERA in the first half of seasons, John, is like 4.38. His second half season career ERA is like 2.38.
Wow.
I don't understand the methodology with the guy in terms of why he's not prepared better to start the season. It happened here with the Dodgers. It happened in San Francisco first half last season. And then there was injuries on top of that. And prior to that with San Diego, he was miserable. And the same thing at the tail end of his stay in Tampa Bay. So that's $182 million they have tied up with a guy who maybe doesn't prepare himself properly in the offseason for the throwing regimen he needs to exert in spring training. I thought about that this morning. I've never heard that brought up by anybody. Why should somebody else not bring that up and not pay attention to the continued failure first half of the season with Blake Snell? Good news, Shohei Ohtani, full bullpen on Saturday. He's going to throw everything. So they're really ramping him up. Clayton Kershaw, second rehab start, has been sent to Tulsa, AA Texas League, because Oak City's on the road. He's going to make the start in Tulsa. That might be tonight or maybe it's tomorrow. Tony Gonsolin, one more start, Oak City. He's had back-to-back dominant starts. Maybe he's on the brink of coming back. Trade rumors are surfacing because the bottom half of the Dodger roster just is not hitting at all. And the Dodgers aren't playing real good ball. Dodgers are just 5-5 right now, considering how well they were early in the season. And there's big debate whether they should change the batting order and put Ohtani further down in the batting order. Got to have guys getting on base. And I'll tell you what, positions 6 through 9 in the batting order, those dudes are hitting like a combined 173 right now. So Dodgers, for everything they spent, they got a problem with Snell. Everything they're spent, some things aren't correct there. So go ahead. Talk Padres if you wish. I'm not pushing any panic button with the Padres, but geez, they got these guys hurt. That's a big issue. And this Dodger thing with Snell starting, I'm asking these questions. Why does this keep happening? Go ahead, John.
Well, Snell loves his video games, right? And so you can imagine him back home, probably on the couch playing video games and his back all torqued out and not getting enough workouts. And I'm sure he's a pro. He's obviously doing that in the off season, but it is weird, like how he would struggle. He would start slow. We would hear that. Then was the injuries. And so, it's like Rosanna Dana. It's always something, with Blake Snell. But maybe the Dodgers are figuring, hey, man, we got 10 quality starters here. It's so what? If Snell is lights out in the second half of the year and in the playoffs, hey, we'll take that. I mean, imagine adding Snell and Ohtani to that rotation in August. I mean, they'd be killing it.
Dodgers aren't killing it right now. And they're paying Snell a lot of money. And he's had another setback. So you don't think I have a right to ask that type of question?
No, of course you have a right to ask the question. It's a good question because it's at first we used to say, oh, he has a history of starting slowly.
But what's the trigger point behind that history? That's what I want.
Well, yeah, like what the hell are you doing in December, January? But once he got over that, then it became something else. Then it became an injury. So yeah, we come on, Blake, fess up.
Okay, that's where we are. You're a Padre fan. You're a Dodger fan. Feel free to jump on board. somebody's going to jump on somebody in this segment. I know they are.
Well, for the Padres, though, just one real quick, that team, there's like no one left. I mean, it's like Tatis and Machado against the world.
He's team utility man in the everyday lineup. And I mean, Mason McCoy was kind of fun. He's working hard. And there's no doubt that Tyler Wade works hard and grinds and all that. But you're not winning pennants with those guys over a long haul of a season. And thank goodness for the 3 pitchers we have right now. Pray that somebody doesn't get hurt out of that threesome, because they've got absolutely nothing now beyond that.
Pivetta was just fantastic in the middle game of that 3-game series. And Kyle Hart's trouble. But I just keep thinking about that roster. And like, even, Gavin Sheets, bless his heart, has had a good, opening to the season. But we're counting on him as one of our top 3 or 4 hitters, and we shouldn't.
Gavin Sheets.
Did I say Andy Sheets again?
I thought you said Gavin Hart.
Oh, I might have said Gavin Hart, but Gavin Sheets, it's just that it's amazing that he becomes one of your core guys when we thought he was just sort of an accessory to plug in.
Well, we'll walk around like this with our fingers crossed that Arise gets off the 7-day concussion list pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, we thought he was going to, fly to Detroit and meet up with the team, but he came back to San Diego.
Well, they kept him in Houston overnight for additional observation. Then they decided, no, he's not going to join them. He's coming home for additional observation because there's a neck issue. I mean, he took a terrible jolt. It was just, what a collision that thing was. Yeah.
It was a tough collision, but I'll just say this, and I don't want to be harsh on it, but it looked bad, but the result, the injury seemed far worse than the ugliness of the collision. Don't you feel that?
Well, I thought it was a hard hit.
It definitely was a hard hit.
But, he was unconscious. He was out on the field.
That's amazing.
He was down for 11 minutes along the way.
But
by the way, it's interesting. Mike Schilt made a comment last night that maybe Major League Baseball should consider the orange or green base to protect the base runners at the major league level, because the NCAA put that into effect, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Interesting, because baseball's obviously already increased the size of the bag as a protection point, but would baseball go ahead with the orange or the green base that the runner could tag that would get him out of the line of fire? But you can't control a guy throwing a ball into the baseline where the guy going to catch the ball has to reach across, and then maybe there's going to be a collision anyhow.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of that extra base. I mean, for a number of different reasons. I mean, certainly you don't want to see a collision. But there was a game the Padres are playing like within the last week or so, and it might have been Bogarts, or I think, had laid down a bunt, and they were running up to first base, and the pitcher just had the ball and just threw it at the runner because the runner was in the throwing lane. And so you'll see that where the runner is going up the first baseline, and they're not on the dirt, they're on the infield grass sometimes.
Wasn't paying attention.
And I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing over there? So if they put the second base, the orange base, which would be in foul territory, at least they would be in that running lane that we see the chalk lined up.
Yep.
So, I mean, they need to fix that too. The runners need to pay attention.
Exactly. Okay, that's all things baseball. You got a Padre opinion, got a Dodger opinion. You think we're going to get an opinion? Fans Forum chat box is open for you to join us. Let's go there. Let's talk basketball.
Yeah, the Lakers and the Clippers kind of got off to schneid.
Lakers are going to Minnesota. This has not been an easy series. Minnesota mauled them in the first game. Lakers had a massive lead in the second game, led by 20-plus, and blew the lead. J.J. Redick came off the bench during a timeout in a rage. He actually walked out halfway out on the court, screaming at his players to get their attention. They came back and obviously won that second game, but it wasn't easy. Now they got to go to Minnesota. And I'll tell you what, those Timberwolves fans are going to be amped. Minnesota plays a lot better at home. I think Minnesota's convinced itself that we can stand there and we can mug these guys and we can be in the game. Now, Minnesota hit 21 threes in the first game upset win in LA, but they were 5 for 25 from the arc in the second game, kind of reverted back to character. Be interesting to see now as we go to game 3 on Friday night, how the Lakers are going to hold up, because the Lakers are going to play Minnesota's depth, Minnesota's full truckload of fouls that they're going to use, and Minnesota's fans. So could they be down 2-1 by Saturday morning? That's possible. So we'll talk about that. Clippers, Denver. I don't know if you watched game 2. How about Kawhi Leonard, 39 points in 39 minutes?
Yeah.
He was spectacular. And I'll tell you, the Clippers they're just playing with an iron fist. They are banging Jokic. They don't care where he is. They're going to double him, and they're going to mug him, and they'll make him take some bad shots. And if he gets fouled, he gets fouled, but he doesn't always hit his free throws. And you never know what you're getting from Denver from other people. Jamal Murray has had a hamstring problem off and on, and he doesn't look to be as explosive as he was before. Michael Porter's got a back issue, and some games he's good, some games he's not. And I just know Denver's got enough depth. The Clippers are coming home now. This series is tied 1-1. They got home court advantage now, and they're playing really, really well. I'm thinking the Clippers are going to put the former champions out of their misery before this thing is over. I think this could be 3-1 before they go back to Denver.
Yeah, it was really impressive the way they played that game. I mean, some people on Twitter are saying that, what would Kawhi Leonard's legacy be like if he didn't have so many injuries?
Sure.
Would we think of him the same way we think of, some of the other top 10 all-time guys?
James Worthy, those type of players.
Yeah.
But Kawhi the other night, 39 points in 39 minutes. And they knew he was coming down, and they doubled him and they banged him, and he still made shots.
Mm.
I mean, it looks like he's totally healthy, which I just did not think he'd ever be able to come back to play at this level. But boy, what level he's playing at right now is really special. Did you see the Houston Golden State game last night at all?
Oh, yeah. It was like a fist fight.
Oh, rock fight.
Yeah.
Draymond Green.
Gray beard.
I mean, he plays like a thug. And now Jimmy Butler got hurt because of what Draymond Green did. Draymond Green pounded a Houston player, hit him so hard, the Houston guy undercut Jimmy Butler, who was way in the air going for a rebound. And Jimmy Butler came down on his neck and his back and injured his pelvic area. In essence, if Draymond Green had not cheap-shotted Thompson of the Houston Rockets, Jimmy Butler would not have gotten hurt. Green he's over the edge all the time. And I saw on X today a montage of flagrant one fouls this year the Greens accumulated. It's just, there's no call for that type of over-the-edge play all the time.
Well, the worst all-time move from him was in 2017 when the Warriors had Durant and they were playing the Cavaliers with LeBron, and Draymond Green kicked LeBron in the nuts in the middle of that game, and then he ended up getting kicked out of the game. The Warriors lost some of their inside presence, and they lost the game, and then the series. In my opinion, it was his fault.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the things that Draymond Green brings, but he's over the line all the time. At least I think in the last couple of years, in the twilight of his career, to the point he's just become, I think, a really dirty player.
Compare him with Dennis Rodman.
I don't think Rodman was dirty. Rodman was just unorthodox and just a great rebounder and a banger and a grinder. So,
but it's like there's something mentally, I think, with Draymond Green.
Yeah, Green just goes off the charts.
Because he'll take the cheap shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like last year. He got suspended. He walked down in practice and punched one of his own guys in the mouth in practice. In preseason.
Oh, that was Jordan Poole, wasn't it? Yeah.
Popped the guy. Poole wound up getting hurt, and then Poole wound up getting traded. Amazing. I guess it's okay if he's your guy, but if he's playing against you, you don't like it. But
what's it with the Warriors? They had Latrell Sprewell there. Remember he tried to choke CJ Carlissimo?
Yeah.
Way back in the day. What's going on with these guys?
Okay. All things NBA, feel free to jump on board. Speaking of basketball, one other topic here. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, this is great news from San Diego State.
Yeah. Magoon has elected to withdraw from any consideration for the NBA draft. He did not file the paperwork, but he did not get invited to the Portsmouth workout camp, and he did not get invited to the Chicago camp. So at the end of the day, I think the general consensus was he's not ready to be an NBA player, so he's coming back to San Diego State. That's great news. Add into that, we're waiting for a decision from Miles Bird. Now, he has till mid-May to pull his name out. I would hope that Bird will come back. But you look at, they've recruited 2 freshmen. They've obviously got 3 transfers coming in. They bring Magoon back. If they get Bird back, plus the others who are returning, staying on the roster, really good, really deep basketball team when the rest of the world's losing all of its players.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Ziegler was commenting about this in his recent article because teams like Indiana and Baylor, their whole roster has just been blown up. And Dutcher is the opposite. He's like, he holds his guys in. So I think a lot of that goes to that, retention effort that they started in February and
the
in March.
Mesa Foundation.
Yeah, so good on them. But I've heard the comments of Miles Byrd maybe in the first round. I mean, I'd be happy for the kid, but I don't think that's realistic. Do you?
The Miles Byrd, who had no points while his team was 40 points down in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, there's
that Miles Byrd.
Yeah, so and then if Miles Byrd comes back, you'd have 13 like guys that could probably say they deserve to be a starter. They can make a case. So if Miles Byrd comes back, I don't know how he fits the whole thing together.
But he fits them together, and you can always redshirt, and there will be some injuries along the way. Miles Bird's not ready for pro basketball.
I don't think so. No. But I'm happy for Magoon. Welcome back, Magoon.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all things basketball. Hockey hotline. Man, there's not enough hours in the day to watch all the playoff games on TV, but I am watching all the playoff games on TV. Let's talk NHL hockey. I did make the comment about the LA Kings having receipts in their pocket.
Yes, you did.
To pay back the Edmonton Oilers. How about the Kings? Kings have poured 11 goals past Stuart Skinner, the Edmonton goaltender, in 2 games to the point they pulled him last night. Kings are up 2-0. Series is going back to the Great White North. Tell you what, Edmonton's got all kinds of problems. Skinner is fighting the puck. Skinner goes down way too much. Edmonton's defense is pathetic in terms of clearing people from in front. They hit the pipe once. There were 3 or 4 empty nets that the Kings missed getting shots on. Hell, the Kings could have had 9 or 10 goals last night, and they had to pull Skinner. Now, I mean, Edmonton's, they got a real big problem going home, because I'll guarantee you that fan base up there, they're asking the question, why are we playing this guy? This guy's reverted back. He's really scuffling and struggling, but I'm not sure what the coaching staff's alternative is. That's probably a journeyman backup. What are you going to do with a journeyman? Kings are playing really well. Kings are up 2-0 in that series. Anaheim Ducks beginning the process to find a new coach after hitting the eject button on their old coach. Interesting name, Rick Tocchet, who has become a free agent because Vancouver did not pick up the option, despite the fact Tocchet did a great job in a year and a half with the Canucks. But I've also been told Tocchet is on the East Coast this week, meeting, I was told, with the Flyers, but also going to meet now with the New York Rangers. Tocchet's name has been mentioned. Another name that's been mentioned is college hockey coach Dave Carl, Denver University. He built them into a 1AA power, or 1A power, won a couple national championships. He's got great credentials. David Carl, I think, it could be a finalist for the Ducks job. And here's a wild card name that was mentioned to me, Kevin Dineen. Kevin was a former NHL head coach, coached the San Diego Gulls and did really well, and then left. Coached the New Jersey Devils top team in the American Hockey League. The Utica Comets coached very well. He scored almost 400 goals in his National Hockey League career. Kevin Dineen might get a chance, even though he didn't coach after getting let go in Utica at the start of the season. So the Gulls are going a lot of different directions, talking to people. I don't know what Pat Verbeek's profile of the next head coach is, because he's let Greg Cronin and before that Dallas Eakins, who I thought were 2 really good young coaches in the American League, coaching a young roster. He let both those guys go. So that'll be fascinating to see who that is. Chicago Blackhawks. Do you want to do this? Do you want me to cross the intersection again? Sports, politics,
here we
politics, sports. Story broke in Chicago last night. Legendary goaltender Dominik Hasek, Blackhawks, Sabres, phenomenal superstar, European, Czechoslovakian. His life has been threatened by Russia. Hasek spoke out in Czechoslovakia about Putin and about the war on Ukraine. The director of security for Putin threatened Hasek in an interview on the TASS news agency yesterday, in which he told the goaltender, just be careful of what you eat. Be careful of where you go and travel, because he condemned Putin for the 3-year war that's killed all these women and children and all these innocent people. Think about that. The head of the Russian defense system threatens Dominik Hasek in Czechoslovakia. Just absolute amazing story. So, all things hockey. Go ahead, John.
Sounds like a James Bond movie,
Yeah.
we got going on here with that. I mean, that's awful. I mean, it just really is being threatened by, KGB.
Watch what you eat.
Yeah.
That's the way people disappear in Russia. They die.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a shame. What the hell's going on in this world? Okay. The other two I think are interesting. One is the Kings. I'm loving that. I mean, the payback and, they're up 2-0. So, that hopefully they'll win this thing in 4 or 5 games. And that would be nice. But the Ducks thing to me, with the most interesting thing is that the one candidate from Denver University, and I know they have a really good hockey program, but isn't Denver University, or is it University of Denver? It's kind of this college that we don't normally think about.
Well, they don't play football, and they do have basketball, but hockey has been their calling card forever.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is we know them for hockey, but obviously they don't play in any of the power conferences for football. We don't usually see them on the radar for basketball, or really, if at all. So it's interesting that the university is there. I guess academically, it's supposed to be very good. I had some friends of mine that had friends that went there and spoke highly of it. But it's interesting how a university is so good at hockey, but yet so unknown in other ways.
Well, because they don't invest in other things. They have limited resources. There's 2 schools there that are just like that. Denver University's Pioneers and Colorado College. If you follow college hockey, those 2 names are normally playing in the Frozen Four, which is the NCAA's version of the Final Four in hockey. They've been champions before. So it'll be interesting if David Carl actually winds up with the job, because he's got great credentials, and he stayed there forever. So interesting storyline there.
Wow. So who's playing tonight? Are the Kings and the Oilers tonight?
No, today's a travel day for the Kings. They play tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow. All right.
On we go. Okay, last topic on the table, late-breaking stories.
Yeah, soccer and golf on the SportsWire.
Yeah, let's talk about, you sure you want me to cross this intersection again?
Again?
British Open Golf has confirmed they've received documents from Turnberry, the prestigious historical course in Scotland that wants to get back in and host in the rotation of the British Open. The Royal and Ancient, which runs the British Open, pulled Turnberry out of the rotation because of the attack on the Capitol, January 6th. The incident that was triggered by the president, Trump. They pulled it because Trump owns Turnberry. And they've never allowed that course to get back into the rotation to host the British Open. At this point, the RNA, Royal and Ancient, says it's not amenable to reopening negotiations, not just because of January 6th, because Trump pardoned those who were in prison who attacked all those police officers, pardoned them as, quote, patriots. So that's the latest there from the British Open. Speaking of golf, this is a really cool story. PGA, greatest modern-day amateur who never turned pro, has passed away. His name is Jay Siegel. You'd probably remember the name.
Yeah, the name sounded familiar when I read it this morning.
2-time U.S. amateur champion, has passed away at the age of 82. He played at Wake Forest. He was a protege of Arnie Palmer. They wanted him to turn pro. He suffered an injury. He elected not to turn pro. He started a unbelievably successful insurance business in the Carolinas, stayed there, and played as an amateur his entire career. 9 times on the Walker Cup team as an amateur, played in the U.S. Open, British Open, Masters as an amateur, never turned pro. Jay Siegel, great player, but elected not to go after the big money and just to stay where he was. He's passed away at the age of 82. Last topic, soccer. Tell you what, this bears watching. Legendary U.S. coach Bruce Arena, who had coached the national U.S. team, has had enormous success in MLS, has ripped the U.S. Soccer Federation for the hiring of Mauricio Pochettino, the Argentinian, saying Pochettino, who does not understand the culture, the language, the style of play, the psyche of the American player, shouldn't be the coach of Team USA. Arena beside himself of the opinion, how the hell can Team USA, with all of its talent, lose to Canada and lose to Panama in the Nations League tournament, saying they're so far away from being ready to compete globally. A lot of people don't agree with Arena because Pochettino has had to deal with 2 different injuries to Christian Pulisic, ongoing injury problems with Gio Reyna. McKinney has had injury problems, etc. They think the criticism's a little bit unfair at this point in time because up until the Nations League, Pochettino had done a pretty good job, but now he's got a bunch of guys that are banged up. Arena says this is not the right guy. He had to hire an American coach, not somebody from abroad. And he said, you're building a national team. This is not like taking a club and trying to build a club team. You need a different approach because you're dealing with guys who are playing with all their own professional teams, and you're bringing them back in a short window to get them ready to play in a tournament. He didn't think that Pochettino's done a good job. So, John, you going to Turnberry? You want to talk about Jay Siegel? Talk about Bruce Arena. The podium is yours.
Interesting comments in this one here. So, I mean, the Donald Trump thing, I mean, when the president or the leader of a nation owns a golf club in another nation, it just creates complications like this. So I don't know. The British Open people are going to do whatever they're going to do and just let them do it. I never, the story about the amateur golfer is interesting because in today's day and age, you rarely ever hear of a case of a guy just, killing it and as an amateur and choosing not to be a professional when the opportunity is there. Now, granted, back in his day, the money was a lot less,
yes,
but still. And then finally, as a USA soccer fan, we should not be losing to Panama. We shouldn't be losing to these little nations and granted it's in our own CONCACAF, but our second strings and third string guys should still be better than the amount of soccer talent you can get from Panama. I mean, so that's a fair criticism.
That bears watching as we go forward. Just to see, Gold Cup coming up and all that. That bears watching just to see how Pochettino responds, how the players respond to Pochettino. Most of the positive comments, and a lot of the comments have come from Pulisic, have been very positive about this incoming coach, but Bruce Arena doesn't see it that way. Okay, we put a lot of topics on the table because we do sports talk the way it should be done. Now it's your turn to take over. We're opening it up to you. It's called Fans Forum. You got a question, we got answers. You got a statement to make, feel free to stand up and to sound off. Fans Forum chat box is open. Our podcast is brought to you by Our Lads Draft Guide. You like football? NFL Draft is tonight. You should subscribe to Our Lads. You still have time to go online, ourlads.com. Get the subscription, not just to the draft book, but then you'll get the newsletters, and then you'll get their preseason book that comes out right before camps open in July, which is a recap of the draft, the trades, free agency, the depth charts of all the teams. Ourlads.com. The address to go to. And by Dixie Line Lumber. You got projects, they got materials, whether it's in the home, whether it's at work, it's out on the back patio up near the pool. Dixie Line. Go to dixieline.com to find out all the things that they have to offer. Build it, fix it. We guarantee you will like it with dixieline.com. John, I did my job. The rest of this podcast belongs to the people out there. Do your job. Ask a question, make a statement. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I mean, what's funny is we get all kinds of great comments and questions. There's been a big argument in the chat today amongst the people chatting. So let's get right down to it.
I can imagine what this one's about.
No, it's about you, but in an interesting way. And this is from Jason. And he says, hey, nice to see Saw wearing the San Diego Chargers Lightning Bowl. LA, no thanks.
I concur. I still have a fair amount of the gear that I got as a voice of the Chargers. And I got this, my son got this for me long time ago, and I wear it on occasion. This is a special occasion. So I'm wearing it because NFL draft means a lot to me. I built my whole career about the National Football League. So proud of Actually, John Quintera and I were commenting on this. So proud of what we did covering the NFL football and what we did on game day and what we did on draft day. We did 9 hours in those Draft Central broadcasts. So it was really special. So I saw it and I said, oh, I'm going to wear that today. And I'm wearing it because I love the lightning bolt. I'm wearing it because I want Justin Herbert to go 17-0, but I want Dean Spanos to go 0-17. You've heard me say that before.
No, the argument though is that the San Diego Charger logo or the LA Charger logo?
No, this was the San Diego Charger logo. I got this while the Chargers were still here.
Yes. Okay. So I think there's going to be some people in the chat are going to be happy to hear that confirmation.
And
okay.
by the way, the guy going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Antonio Gates.
Oh yeah.
That is San Diego Charger tight end, Antonio Gates. It's got nothing to do with Los Angeles. Nothing.
Nice. Okay, we get a little bit of something here in San Diego for us to cheer for. Okay, and let's go here to Chris and we'll get his comment. He goes, "Sure, the Kings have scoring depth and an anchor between the pipes, but their secret weapon so far this series has been the group of Korean ladies from the senior center
with the harmonicas.
Yeah, gloriously playing the national anthem on their harmonicas. The Oilers were not prepared to deal with that."
Well, the Oilers don't look like they're prepared at all. You know, I want to know where the second, third, and fourth lines of the Oilers are. It just can't be Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl every shift. Hyman has not had the goal scoring season he had this year. Evander Kane was hurt, but his productivity has dropped off. Edmonton defensively looks poor, and they're not moving people out from in front of Skinner. And Skinner's fighting the puck, and Skinner's not doing well in traffic. I'll tell you, Edmonton, Kurt Knoblauch he's got a big problem on his hands as to what he's going to do going into Game 3, because it doesn't look like Skinner can stop the puck right now, and he's not playing with any confidence. And I've never seen a goaltender go down as often as Skinner went down last night and leave the net open, and the net was open a lot. And the Kings just checked the crap out of him and kept coming up with pucks. And who's scoring goals? I mean, yeah, Kempe and Kopitar have scored goals. Byfield scoring goals. And the third and fourth line guys are scoring goals. And the guy that picked up at the trade deadline, Kuzmenko, that nobody wanted, is scoring goals. I mean, Kings right now are a really, really deep hockey team. So very dangerous. Chris, thank you for the input.
Yeah, there's a lot of Kings comments here. Let's go here to Callan. Afternoon, gents. Which team in your mind is in big trouble so far in their series? Colorado or Edmonton? Feels like Edmonton is finally out of gas. Like you said, payback.
Oh, receipts. They had receipts. They scored 11 goals on Skinner in 2 games. He didn't, and Skinner got yanked. He just looked totally emotionally beaten down. Colorado has had injury problems. I'll tell you the coolest thing, though, we saw last night. Gabriel Landeskog from Sweden, who's a Colorado captain, is a fine player. He suffered a really bad knee injury 3 years ago, John. And he had creative meniscus transplant surgery. Had hardly ever been tried before in a citizen, much less an athlete. And he spent 3 years rehabbing from this cartilage transplant procedure. And he kept having setbacks. He stayed at it. And he finally got cleared. He played in a couple of American Hockey League games on his final rehab session 2 weeks ago. Well, the Colorado Eagles, their top farm club, and they put him on the ice last night. His first game was his first game in 3 years. Has not played an NHL game since 2022. They gave him a 4-minute standing ovation. They would not let the game start. The fans in Denver were just at the Bell Arena were just amazing. So he's a tremendous person. And you talk about the fortitude of rehabbing from an injury. He spent 3 years in rehab with setback and making progress and setback, and didn't even know if he'd ever be able to play and skate again. And now he's back taking shifts with the Avalanche. Does Colorado have enough? That's a question. They've had injuries. They got to keep their guys healthy. But, and you know, at the end of the day, Dallas is really damn good. And even though Dallas has got injury problems again, but Dallas is good.
So this guy was out for 3 years, and he comes back and for a playoff game.
Yep.
I mean, so talk about being thrown right into the fire.
Well, but he had done every progression you could do in terms of rehab, and the last progression was he practiced with him for about 3 weeks, and then they sent him to the American League, which was finishing up his schedule with the Colorado Eagles, and he played 2 games of full shifts, and he had no negative reaction. That's the thing, is you skate hard. How do you feel the next 2 days? Does it flare on you? Does it get swollen? Whatever. Didn't have any of that. So they introduced him last night, and that building, the roof on that building got blown up. They wouldn't let him drop the opening puck. The fans are
that's cool.
It's really cool.
Okay, let's go here to Showtime. We're going to talk some Dodgers. He goes, hey, I'm very concerned about Snell and Treinen. Hopefully they aren't out for the year.
Well, Treinen's got a strained forearm. He's had this before. I don't know if that's overuse, but I'd like an answer on the Snell situation. My observation is very honest from the heart. What are you doing in the offseason to prepare for workload? You keep having these problems in the first half of virtually every season. Tampa Bay, San Francisco, and now on your $182 million contract with the Dodgers. I think that's a fair, critical question that I would ask Dave Roberts sitting in the dugout, and I'd want an answer.
Yeah, and we deserve an answer, I think. I mean, especially given that he just signed that big contract. Yep. I mean, so it doesn't make any sense, but both of those pitchers are very special when they're on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're just unhittable. So, yeah.
Now, they got pitchers coming. Ohtani will probably be the first one sometime in May. And again, Ohtani is going through a first full throw everything in the repertoire workout Saturday in the Dodger bullpen. And Kershaw has had one good start, Oak City, second start now Tulsa. Gonsolin looks like he might be up within 2 weeks. If there's no further setback for him, he's had a couple of 3 good starts at AAA. And, I mean, he's dominated at AAA. So there's obviously the cavalry is coming, and they need it. Dodgers just are not playing very well. You know, the other rumor is the Dodgers are talking to the White Sox about this Luis Robert trade. And, you know, they got half the batting order isn't producing at all.
Yeah, isn't it interesting, too, how the Padres and Dodgers are similar in a way, where the bottom half of the batting order is unproductive, and there are injuries in both pitching staffs, but the Dodgers have so much more depth. I mean, yep. The depth is insane with the LA Dodgers. You know, I mean, the Padres lose 1 or 2 pitchers, they're toast. The Dodgers have got, you know, a whole bunch of guys waiting in the wings.
Well, a whole bunch of those guys, though, coming off surgeries. You know, Dustin May had 2 really dominant starts and then got killed in his last start. But no physical problem, but he wasn't getting the ball over the plate, and he got racked for 5 runs in the first inning. I think he gave up 7 runs in his last start. But long season, we'll just see where it goes. Somebody will make a deal. You know, if the Dodgers make this Luis Robert trade, they'll be taking on more payroll, but money's no problem in LA. I don't think the Padres can do anything from an acquisition standpoint.
Well, we thought at during the offseason, the Padres are going to have to pare the payroll back. And remember when they signed Pivetta, we're like, whoa.
Yeah, but that was the way that was structured. That's, in essence, it's a 2-year, $20 million deal. He gets $1.5 million this year. He gets $19 million next season.
Right. So, and then by that time, Hosmer's contract's off the books,
yes,
right?
Yes, the other guys might be off the books, but we'll worry about that next year. Right, we move on.
Okay, let's go here to Joe. This is an interesting one. Hey, thoughts on the Vikings' possible picks?
Joe, they don't have many. They only have 4 picks by virtue of past trades that they've made. Now, there's rumors there might be some other transactions out there. But, you know, Minnesota, I still think they need defensive help. And in all honesty, Minnesota's got to find a veteran quarterback because they don't have anybody on the roster. I mean, now Kirk Cousins is still out there, and that's going to be a post-draft transaction if he gets moved. And there are people of the opinion that it might be going to Minnesota, but the Vikings want Atlanta to pick up half the salary, and Atlanta says no. But, you know, it's $37 million total, and to ask Atlanta to pick up half of that. So what's Minnesota going to give up? I'm not giving up a first or second round pick for 37-year-old Kirk Cousins. Minnesota's got to get a veteran quarterback in there just to be an insurance policy, or maybe actually compete with J.J. McCarthy. But, I mean, they had a good season last year, but now it's different because Darnold is gone, and we don't really know what you got in J.J. McCarthy, although he's been cleared. He's there. They started their voluntary workouts. He's there. And he's been physically cleared to do everything in the OTAs he needs to do. We'll see.
Isn't it interesting how McCarthy it's a little bit of a mystery here. You know, when he was playing at Michigan, you know, at least I thought of him as good, but not great. I knew he'd get drafted.
He was solid.
Yeah.
But he was surrounded by greatness.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you're thinking, oh, he'll go like second or third round or something. And then suddenly he's in the first round and he's rising in the first round, and Minnesota gets him. And then he was like lighting it on fire in the preseason before he injured himself. Yeah. And I'm thinking, whoa, I really underestimated this guy.
Well, it was a major meniscus tear, and then they had to have a second procedure, which delayed the full rehab process. But all of a sudden, we got to the end of the season, and they, Kevin O'Connell indicated in his end of season presser, he's making progress. And then the pre-draft presser, the general manager said he's ready, cleared to go, everything OTAs. They're going to make a deal to get another quarterback in there, a backup rental or Kirk Cousins to compete.
Yeah, it'd be weird having Cousins go back.
I think I exactly say that. Kirk Cousins, he does everything, including cashing big checks at the bank and putting big passing yard stats up there, but he sure doesn't win a hell of a lot of must-win games. Okay, thanks, Joe.
Okay, this is a quick three-parter.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is with Joey. He has questions on the Jaguars, or the Raiders, and the Rams. So real quick, will Jacksonville still steal Ashton Jeanty from the Raiders?
That's the rumor as of about an hour before I was going on, that they had changed their mind. But see, they have they have the running back from Clemson, Travis Etienne. Now, he's had injuries early in his career, had a phenomenal breakout season. He got hurt again last year. He's got a big cap figure. I still think they need defense. I would keep Etienne. I would draft Mason Graham. I mean, their defense gave up 390 yards a game last season. So the Michigan man at defensive tackle, I think, is more of a critical need. And, there will be running backs in the second round and even third round. You can go find other backs. If they take them, then the Raiders are going to flip. The Raiders are going to take Mason Graham, just because of what the story just came out today about them losing Christian Wilkins, the big defensive tackle, with another setback in his knee rehab. So, I mean, it's going to be win-win for either one. I think Vegas fans would go crazy if they lose Jeanty, if he winds up going to Jayville at 5 rather than getting picked by the Raiders at 6.
Yeah, well, here's the follow-up on the Raider part of it from Joey. And he says, can the Raiders trade back and still pick up a really good offensive tackle?
Yes, exactly. And there has been rumor there that they could trade back, but they have a critical need in the defensive front because they had so many injuries. They lost all 3 defensive ends. Then Christian Wilkins got hurt. So, I mean, they're wafer thin there. And obviously with Pete Carroll, new coaching staff. But yeah, Raiders could trade back and stockpile additional assets. You don't want to go too far back. But there's a whole good tier of offensive linemen there once you get beyond the kid from LSU, who we think is going to New England, unless New England trades back. And like I told John, it had been really quiet on the trade front till last night, and then stuff started to happen. And the guys I network with on emails and guys I talk to on the phone is saying, man, these rumors are flying all over the place. So something's going to happen fairly early. And then if one domino starts to fall, Joey, a whole bunch of other dominoes start to fall. Okay, next one.
Okay, and then finally from Joey, what kind of magic is a Rams general manager going to be able to pull off like he always does in those middle rounds?
Well, they need help in a couple of different areas. I mean, if they stay at 26, they're probably going to get a chance at one of the really good DBs. The rumor is they don't have a number 2 because they had traded that to Carolina. The rumor is they would take both their thirds and try to get somebody's high number 2. And I was told that if they got the right position at number 2, they could either go get an offensive lineman, which they do need, or maybe they get the quarterback of the future. I hear that they love Milroe. He's not ready to be an NFL star right now, but the Alabama quarterback might be the guy. They also worked out Taylor Shuck, who's kind of a Ben Roethlisberger type out of Louisville, that if it's the right guy, maybe they do that in the second round, Joe.
Yeah, interesting too, because Gary was commenting about this, about the quarterback of the future. He says the Rams need to draft a QB in the first or second round if a good one is available. When they make their selection, they need to plan for life after Stafford.
Now, there's a feeling that Stafford's going to play this year and Stafford's going to play next year. He'd have to renegotiate the contract next year again, but they have a strong working relationship. So I think at the end of the day, there's 2 more years of quality Matthew Stafford football. We'll see. But Les Snead is at back-to-back really good drafts. And it's interesting. He and Sean McVay seem to have this philosophic idea that I want athletes who are wired right. And boy, what they got last year in the draft, those 2 defensive linemen, they were wired. Those are really good players, Verse and Fisk. Mm-hmm. So see if Snead works magic 3rd year in a row, because I think he's done a really good job last 2.
Snead. We don't need no effing draft picks.
He's the one that developed the T-shirt.
I saw
the press
that.
conference that F those draft picks.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
because that was at the parade after they had won the Super Bowl. This is a great one from Mike, and he's like, "Show me your lightning bolt." Love you, Saw.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you along. There's a lot of people don't necessarily agree with everything. That's okay. We do sports talk the way it should be done, which means A, you're going to get a lot of hot topics on the table. B, you're going to get the chance to respond. Then it's up to you to decide whether you like me, like him, like our mascot, or whether you want to fight us on everything. It doesn't really matter, but that's what we do. And you people can really push us over the top. If you give us thumbs up, if you give us 5 stars and you know how to work all that stuff on computers, on the podcast, that really helps us. And you tell all your friends who we are on Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Am I right or am I right?
You're right, man. You're right on target. Hey, let's go here to John. He goes, so it's the draft. We going to see Kevin Costner? Sorry, but the NFL isn't fan friendly and it sure as hell doesn't love San Diego. It's the first round of Lord Stanley's Cup. Let's talk Kings Oilers, Canes Panthers, Dallas Colorado. Those are some epic matchups. And most of all, let's go Caps.
Well, Caps are really good. There's no doubt about that. And what Logan Thompson did last night, he made 4 or 5 third period saves that kept Montreal off the books. So Washington leads that series 2-0. Montreal, one of my best friends is a Montreal fan. Montreal has got all kids. And my philosophy in life is you got a young hockey team, they got to learn how to walk down that hallway the first time in the playoffs. And they're going to get blown out. They're going to get intimidated and they're going to fall apart. That has not happened. What Martin St. Louis has done as head coach with a really young hockey team is really impressive. They almost beat the Caps twice in Washington. And now that sucker goes back to the Bell Center in Montreal. Oh, Canada. That place is going to be electric. So we'll see if this young Montreal team, which has not been bullied and not been intimidated and not been blown out, we'll see if going home makes a difference and if they climb back into the series. So, and hey, Draft Day. You like the movie Kevin Costner, Draft Day, General Manager, Cleveland Browns?
That was one of your top picks.
You didn't see it?
I have not seen that one.
John, you got to get out of the house once in a while.
I have not seen that one.
I swear to you people, this man, I inherited this man when he came up with the idea for the podcast, and John and I become pretty good friends, and we talk and text a lot and talk a lot of junk. And John subscribes to everything. You should see his man cave. You should see his big screen TV. It's bigger than my freaking house. John doesn't see a lot of these movies. So I drew up a list. I emailed it to him. And I said, John, in your spare time, there's about 20 movies I want you to see. He hasn't seen any of them yet.
Well, I remember it was Concussion is definitely, I need to see that one.
The Pittsburgh Steelers movie. And Draft Day with Kevin Costner about the Cleveland Browns.
Slap Shot, which I've seen in pieces, but I've never seen the whole thing.
8 Men Out, about the Black Sox scandal. John, you got to get out of the house.
I've missed that one too. There's too many good movies.
Well, you got time.
Oh, yeah, right.
We're going
to hanging out with you. We spend a lot of time working on this stuff together.
Yeah, I will say this. You know, the boards that we put up with the logos and all the graphics and the stuff, John creates all that. I send him the data, and I say, you and our mascot Sniffer, the barking beagle, said, you guys create. And John does graphically. He does an unfreaking believable job in terms of the graphics that we display, and that takes hours and time. Oh, sorry. You just need to start watching some of these movies, pal.
I know. Well, I have the ball game on and I'm kind of monkeying around with the graphics.
All right. John Hopkins, thanks for being with us. We'll see if Montreal can make this a series against your Washington Caps. Go ahead.
Okay, here's a Belichick sighting from Carlos. He goes, Hacksaw, what do you think of Belichick and his trophy girlfriend at the Hurricane game?
Oh, just amazing. I mean, this storyline with a 72-year-old Belichick and a 24-year-old lady is amazing. And she's the CEO of his, quote, media company. And at spring football workouts in Chapel Hill, she's marching up and down the sidelines in a long coat with these big white boots and hot pants.
Right on.
I'm sure Bill's having a good time. I would have never, ever imagined that was possible with Bill Belichick. But John, I guess there's hope for you and me.
But it's just Belichick sometimes like a grumpy old man, you know, and it's just weird to see him with like a really energetic young woman, you know? It's just like, I get it. He's like a celebrity and there's opportunity for her, but they're just like,
something doesn't jive.
yeah, they're like opposite people. Like they would never belong together in any other situation.
Hope there was a prenup there.
Well, they're not married, are they?
Not that I know of yet.
Well, yeah. But, good on Bill. Good on Bill Belichick. You got to give him a hand.
Oh.
All right, let's go here. We got some social media guys that want to get in on this.
Go ahead.
Okay, and this I thought was interesting, and it's here. It's talking about San Diego State, and this is from William, and he says Sean Lewis was a bad hire. He's setting back the program in less than 2 years, and his recruiting is horrid.
Well, they continue to lose players, and you can say, well, that's happening in a lot of other places. It is. I concur with you, but I was so disappointed. Spring football, you're hitting the reset button on your program. You do have a following. Spring football, that's why you hold a red and black scrimmage. You display the new quarterbacks, all the ones you brought in, the freshmen and the 2 D1 transfers. You display what you're doing with your offense, and you've added more skilled people there. And instead, to run this frat house beer Olympic competition makes no sense at all. And, we presented the facts that their season tickets at one point, when they opened Snapdragon, they sold 15,984 season tickets. It is now down to 5,900. They've lost over 10,000 season tickets in 2 years. I mean, this thing is just, it's been ignored by the community. I'm not ready to give up on Sean Lewis because I know what he did at Kent State, and that situation was just dreadful. And he really made them competitive, but I just don't understand this methodology at San Diego State. When you need to sell the new product and attract people to do this way, makes no sense to me at all.
Well, there's been a convergence of a lot of weird things that have happened. This whole NIL transfer portal, I mean, these coaches have got to be like herding cats to try to keep their roster intact. I saw the Aztecs, they just had 2 or 3 guys just announce they're going to the portal. So that's got to be hard. And then it's coming on the heels of the whole COVID thing, and the team was playing it up in LA.
But everybody's got that same set of problems. So it's not like this is just germane to Montezuma Mesa.
But I still think, in my opinion, it's still a good hire, because we've had this history of coaches coming to San Diego, in the sunset of their career, and they retire. But this was a dude that had an innovative offense. The dude would coach with Coach Prime
and had done something really great at Kent State.
Yeah. So he to me, I saw him coming here thinking, okay, this is an innovator. This is a guy that's going to light up the offense for San Diego, make the product really exciting, and give San Diego State an edge in recruiting, because he was going to run this really high-powered, lightning-fast offense.
It didn't happen in year 1. Surely hasn't happened now in year 2. And then they didn't hold the red and black scrimmage. And, there's San Diego State's Alumni Association. I know those people. They'll tell you there's 150, 175,000 alums live in our community. I don't see any of them supporting the team. I don't see any students supporting the team. That's really bothersome.
It's weird. Yeah. Some universities would die to have a football program there, and then the Aztecs have one and they don't get support, but San Diego fans are fair weather fans. If they start winning, they'll show up.
I've asked the question. I do mini polls on social media on my X account. Why don't you support the team? And the bulk of the people are of the opinion, your schedule sucks. I can't identify with the Mountain West Conference. Okay. Although Boise State's in the conference, Fresno's had great quarterbacks. So, I mean, there have been good teams, et cetera. Air Force is Air Force. So I only buy that critique to a point that, but they say it's boring offense. Yeah. But they won. They won under Brady Hoke. They won under Rocky Long. And those are 2 fine people. And they had success, and they ran the damn ball and put guys in the NFL, and they played great defense, but community just never. Now, part of this has to be at San Diego State, at their front doorstep. I told them when the Chargers left, I don't know if I've ever related the story to you. I told them, the Chargers have gone. You have a unique opportunity. You go hire 1 or 2 of the Charger executives who are not going to LA. You go hire them, the guys that sold corporate advertising commitments, and you bring them in here. And you go get their expertise and experience, and you go get the corporate sponsors that have been left behind by Spanos, yanking the team out of here. They didn't do it. Didn't hire any of them. And where those people go? Padre baseball. Now the Padres own the market. They own the market corporately. They own the market from an aesthetic standpoint. They own the market economically in terms of the advertising dollar, and San Diego State has nothing. So that part of this is on the athletic department and the leadership at San Diego State, where I think you could have grasped the deposed Charger fans. And at that point, Brady Hoke and Rocky Long had done a really good job, and they're putting guys in the NFL on a year-by-year basis.
Hacksaw doing as I told you so, you know. But, you know, they did a little bit of that. It was like one city, one team, and they had a thing going for a while to try to, you know, make this the focal point. But then the COVID thing happened, and they had no stadium.
Right.
And so it just been this weird series of bad luck. And then there was a guy who was like the VP of marketing for the Chargers, like Bill Johnson, I think his name was.
He was a PR director.
PR. And I think
he went to work for the Padres.
He's one of the guys that went there. And so I don't know, you know, also, I mean, they're losing fans to, you know, the Wave and now at San Diego FC.
Yep.
And it's a competitive market.
Yeah, a Division I program. Its last 2 home games, they had 10,000 fans.
But where are the alumni? I mean, you go to any football stadium in America, you know, like in any of the big conferences, alumni flood the place.
Exactly. Not here. Okay, enough with that. San Diego State. That's where they are, and I blame them more than I blame anybody else. Okay, we move on. Okay, let's go here. We'll get retired 16 pilot in and talk about the Padres and Mike Schill. But he says, here's one thing no one will ever talk about, and that's the Padres catchers. They don't hit well, but they call a good game, and they know the game of baseball. If you've never played the game, then you don't understand the importance of the catcher. Oh, I concur with you wholeheartedly. Defensively, they're much better now than they've been in a while. Now they've kind of set aside Luis Campusano because he had such defensive flaws and his metrics were rated terrible. Can you live with Maldonado and Diaz hitting under 200? Well, if they continue to make a lot of defensive plays, maybe you can, but you'd sure like to have a little bit more offense. Campusano's hitting the hell out of the ball at AAA El Paso. Somebody wrote me and said, hell, they ought to make him a first baseman. If he's going to hit, let him play first base rather than catch. But so right now, I mean, they've made their choice, and these guys are really good defensively, but historically, neither Elias Diaz nor Martin Maldonado, dudes don't hit over 200.
Well, Diaz made the All-Star game a few years ago.
With the Rocks.
And there were moments when Maldonado was a better hitter when he was with Houston, but that's going way back. But I remember in the off season, this was a big talking point. You know, are they just going to forego the 9th spot in the order, go defensive only? And everyone was raving about Maldonado and his baseball knowledge. I mean, he sounded like he could be another coach.
Oh, he's slick.
Yeah.
He's a veteran guy.
He definitely. So I agree. I think those catchers have made a big difference, but the future of Campusano right now, who knows?
Up in the air. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go here to, this is a good one from Surf City Bill. He says, Ashton Jeanty, the People's Heisman.
Quite a player. You know, NFL people tell me he is equal to what LaDainian Tomlinson was coming out of TCU. He's actually bigger than Tomlinson. They're both 5'8", but this guy's built like a cement block. And he's got every dimension that Tomlinson has. Has not caught as many balls out of the backfield at Boise, but you can work on that. He has caught some passes. But he's a really fine football player. And the unique aspect, and John and I talked about this off the air, that kid was wooed for a year and a half to leave by Pac-12 schools and then Big 12 schools, and he turned down. Now, granted, he got a pay bump in the NIL package from Boise, but he stayed there, stayed with the coaching staff. So the kid's got great credentials, and he's going to be a fine football player. And we'll just see. Got to stay healthy more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I mean, it's nice to see a group of 5 kid, you know, get an opportunity to be drafted this high. And then hopefully he becomes very special, like LaDainian or like Marshall Faulk or someone like that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Raiders take him in the draft. I mean, it's a lot of different ways it can go.
We'll see what Jacksonville does tonight, because this whole thing, like I said, these rumors have just started swirling since last night and have increased today. And who's trading out? Something's going to happen maybe at 4, maybe at 5, maybe at 6. And then obviously something happens right in front of you. It's going to change your whole thought. But these general managers, they have it all scoped out. You know, I am Sure. But the Raiders have viewed this as, okay, if we don't get JEANTY, what are we going to do? We're going to take a cornerback, and they need corners. Do we take a defensive tackle? They definitely need defensive tackles based on what just happened to Christian Wilkins. Do we go get a speed wide receiver? Is that too high to take a speed wide receiver at 6? So they all have alternative plans if something directly in front of them happens where somebody with a surprise pick or somebody trades out and the guy that trades in takes the guy you wanted. They have all this laid out.
They probably have it mapped out, like every possible scenario.
Exactly.
You know, even if you're picking in the top 5, there could be 12 possible scenarios depending on who traded in. And I bet you they have an answer for every one of them.
But the theory was that this is such a deep athletic draft. This is a phenomenal draft, first round and second round, that maybe there won't be a lot of trades only because you're getting good players where you are. And for you to trade up, you have to overpay the price to trade up. But things changed. A lot of strange stuff happens on draft night.
All right. That's only in a few hours.
Okay, a couple more here.
A couple more. Now, this is a cool one. You know, this is a comment from your website. You know, okay, this is people that have read the One Man's Opinion or Best 15. And this is talking about the demise of the newspapers that you wrote about a few weeks back. And Chris says, hey, the tragic loss of newspapers has been in sports. There is no more required reading from people like TJ Simers, Jim Murray, Red Smith. Worse is you can see how artificial intelligence is starting to infect the industry.
Okay, so somebody, you're smarter than I am. Explain how A1 is infecting the industry. What's it doing?
No, A1. No, it's AI. Artificial. Okay, you're like, you know who made that blunder is the McMahon woman, who's the Department of Education secretary. AI, artificial intelligence, infecting sports journalism. And is that true? You think people are using?
How? You explain it to me.
Well, they could use like something like ChatGPT to write an article, or certainly a journalist can just take notes and then throw it over the fence to AI and say, write for me a 2,000 word article.
Okay. Well, the creative aspect of us covering a team would be lost if AI overtakes everything. One of the fears you have now with the newspaper business, John, is there's hardly anybody working in these sports departments. I don't know how many people work at the Union Tribune, but it can't be very many. You know, their lead columnist, Nick Canepa, is semi-retired. He only writes one time a week. They use a lot of former UT guys kind of on a freelance basis. John Maffey does a phenomenal job in high school, and Steve Brand is his assistant. Steve is a former guy, but they're still boots on the ground in the community. You know, they just lost Bryce Miller, their lead columnist, who passed away in a fight with cancer. They've taken Tom Krasovic, who was doing a lot of wide variety of things, and they kind of made Krasovic like their lead columnist, but he's writing more soccer than he is anything else, and I'm not sure that's the correct way to fill your front page of your newspaper with volumes and volumes of soccer columns. But they just, and obviously they've got Kevin Acey, who writes an absolute ton with the Padres, and Jeff Sanders, who is also a Padre beat writer and minor league guy. He writes a ton, but they don't have a lot of guys working there, whereas once upon a time there used to be an awful lot. So yeah, you know, the danger.
Ziegler.
Well, I'm sorry, Ziegler. Ziegler's phenomenal in terms of what he does with the Olympics, and obviously what does San Diego State, and Kirk Kinney does Aztec football, etc. So I mean, those guys do a really good job, but there's just not a lot of guys that are working there. Whereas once upon a time, you know, if I were king and I was running a sports department, I want my Padre beat guys, but I want a national baseball columnist, and I want somebody who's going to be a national NFL columnist. And I want somebody who's going to have knowledge to write stuff about the NBA and the NHL. I'm not going to cut and paste everything from the wire service because I want locally originated stuff. You know, there should be a Mountain West Conference or a college football notebook every week, locally produced, not something they inherit from somewhere else. They don't, you know, there's stuff they don't cover. They don't cover the San Diego Gulls at all. In the last home hockey game, the Gulls drew 12,200. They don't cover. They've never written a feature story this year on the Gulls. Hardly covered the San Diego Sockers, 17-time national champion. It's a manpower thing. It's a dollar thing. I don't think they're doing as good a job as they could do. But it's just not here. LA Times is a shred of what the LA Times used to be too. So it's just gone through different times. I don't know. I would hope, Chris, people would read my website every day because I spend a lot of time writing this. And I don't do it just because I need practice typing on my laptop. I write an absolute volume of stuff. I would hope or we get a lot of readership and people, John and I have this conversation. I would hope people would appreciate the volume of information that I research and produce on a basis. I'm kind of like your daily newspaper without working for a daily newspaper.
No, I mean, seriously, you do an amazing job. I mean, because you're doing 5 columns a week. You're doing the best 15 5 times a week. That's like multiple pages of a sports section.
Yeah, I think so.
And you're writing it. But, I think Chris is right here. Because, people would talk about that back in the day. Did you read so-and-so's column? Oh, my God, this guy was on fire and everything else. Those kind of people don't exist. I mean, Kevin Acee is a good writer. So is Mark Ziegler. They're like beat writers. They don't really do a column, though. They don't really have a one man's opinion like you do. But, local journalism, there's nothing left of it. And it's not just in sports departments and all the news departments, because I think the financial model has changed so radically that they don't have enough revenue to support the kind of staff that you would want if you were king.
Or used to be.
Right.
Exactly. At one point, John, I've been here since 1987. We had the San Diego Union. We had the Evening Tribune. We had the Oceanside Blade Citizen, I guess it was called. You had the Escondido Times Advocate. There was a paper out. Was it El Cajon?
Probably.
Yeah, there's one in El Cajon, I thought. And then there were assorted weeklies. And then there was the Orange County Register, the LA Times, Herald Examiner, LA Daily News, Torrance Daily Breeze. These are all daily papers, and they're virtually all gone by the boards.
Well, what's crazy is that there's so many different things there in flux at the same time. At one level, we've seen this dearth of local journalism, right? Whether it's sports or news. Now a lot of it's just social media, people in neighborhoods and people talking amongst themselves. But this whole consolidation of print media is just like what you went through in the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, because you see local talent being replaced by a syndicated ESPN feed,
which isn't going to talk about the hot topic on the table in our community today.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's changed. Economics have changed. Social media has probably forced the change. But end of the day, Chris, I hope you like my website. I hope you'll read it every day. It's there. It's not going to go on forever. Or I wake up one morning and don't want to do it anymore. Then John will be doing it.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Okay, hey, a couple more comments. We can slip them in. Here's a Padre one from PJ Savage talking about Mike Shilton. He says, hey, thank you, St. Louis.
Yeah, it was really intriguing. And he's never really openly spoken about how this thing got off track. But he had 3 straight winning seasons in St. Louis, and then he was gone. It was just a real shocker. He's a smart guy. He's an intelligent guy. I've talked to him a couple times since he got here. I found him uniquely intellectual. Maybe that's the phrase I should use. And I've dealt with a lot of unique, different guys here who've been the manager of the Padres, but he appeals to the players and he hits the right buttons, and they've given him a lot of talent. AJ Preller has, and right now all things seem to be working good. But I was shocked that he was let go in St. Louis after 3 straight winning seasons, and the Cardinals haven't done anything since that point in time.
Yeah, apparently it was like some misalignment, philosophical differences with
him
the
and
front.
John Mozeliak. Yes.
Yeah, but Schilt is kind of he's a little bit of an odd duck. He doesn't strike me as a traditional kind of baseball manager, because he wasn't really much of a player, was he?
That doesn't mean anything. If he came up through the organization, it was a really well-run organization for decades upon decades, aka the Cardinal way. So you don't have to be a 320 hitter to be a great manager in terms of being a baseball intellect, and I think he is.
We just have some breaking news here on the live chat, and I'm going to get this. This is important. Let me turn this one off here. And this is from our good friend David, who just donated $100.
Oh, wow.
And says, hey, let's give away some tickets to the Padre game to these deserving fans.
Well, that's very generous of you. Well,
because David talked to us about this in the off season, that he wanted to donate tickets that we could give away to listeners of your podcast.
Well, we'll do that as part of the Insiders Group, and I'll let you work with him to come up with a creative way to do this.
Well, I think David wants to give them away right now, and we haven't really cooked up the scheme or the random method of being able to deliver it. But I'll tell you what, let's agree to put that in the next one man's opinion and best 15 We'll include some commentary in there. That way, only you have to be in Hacksaw's insiders group to be part of the mix. And then there we'll be able to figure out how we're going to give those tickets away. And David, thank you very much.
David, you communicate with him. It's very generous of you to do that on behalf of everybody on our podcast. Okay, let's do a couple more here.
A couple more. You just can't let it go. Here we go. Let's. This is another one from your website. This is from Garrett. This will be our last social media for the day. And he says, hey, Denver Broncos interested in Chargers free agent running back J.K. Dobbins, led the Bolts in rushing. Hacksaw, why haven't the Chargers re-signed this guy? He was their bread and butter last year. He's got to be better than all the other running backs except Najee.
Najee Harris is good, different running back. J.K. Dobbins, injury history, big issue. He had 3 injuries last year. He had 2 catastrophic injuries in Baltimore. Made a lot of money last year on a 1-year deal, but they don't want to pay another guy $5 million. That's what they're paying Najee Harris, and Harris has much more durability. I think JK will get signed by somebody. Maybe he comes back here. Just depends what happens in the draft. You know, Denver's looking for a running back, but Denver's also looking in the draft for a younger running back who's much more affordable. So just these things take time. And once you got an injury history, he's had 2 really bad injuries. That kind of trails you as you go. That's why Baltimore didn't bring him back, while the Chargers have not re-signed him yet.
What happened to Gus Edwards?
Released, injury history.
He hasn't been picked up anywhere?
No, older guy, and he'll have to sign a veteran's minimum contract. He'll probably get signed by somebody. But, you know, once you get beyond the draft and everybody sees what their roster is and what their needs are and how much cap space they have, and then guys will start signing 1-year contracts for $1.5 million.
Right. All right. Yeah. You buy into the theory of, like, if you're a running back and you're over 30, you're toast?
If you have an injury history, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, prime example is Ezekiel Elliott. He's got a lot of miles on those tires. Now he doesn't have a job. And he was 28 or 29. The Cowboys, they had injuries. That's enough. Went to Buffalo. Didn't really work out. Came back. Hardly got any snaps at all at Dallas. Not been re-signed. And it's like, and there's so many other young running backs, young stud skill running backs come at a lower price. And the cap plays into this too.
Well, so I think that's right around the time when LaDainian Tomlinson went to play for the Jets.
Yeah, for that year or two.
Yeah, when he was around 30. And so I'd love to see an old guy be successful, but that's going to be too darn hard.
I'm sorry, I am. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this Draft Day podcast. This has really been cool. I hope you'll tell all your friends what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Want you to give us a 5-star rating. Give us a thumbs up. That really helps us a great deal. Check my website. I write on it every day of the week. And, of course, join us on social media on my platforms at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. Share and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll also get the alerts. This podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. Go to dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. And by Hourlads Draft Guide. Still got time to file the order to subscribe, get the Hourlads draft book, and then you'll get on in their list to get their preseason book and their draft recap book. It's a year-round publication. It's really cool. Just go to hourlads.com. John, I can't wait for NFL football and the draft, and then we got NBA playoffs, and
show
we got
the
hockey.
audience that clipboard of yours. You're ready to go for the draft.
Damn right I am.
You got to see this.
So we all have systems how we do what we do. Okay, John's laughing at me.
No, but it's amazing.
This is why this works,
yeah,
Tucker. All right, so I have my draft. Right, this is the first and second round of the draft, broken down club by club. So I just have a list, because to be successful as a talk show host, you need to have the information right at your hand.
Well, you've got multiple pages behind that. I see highlighted and everything.
Yeah,
else.
Exactly. So this is the order of the draft, right?
Yeah.
The second one is the club by club draft picks that I will put in every time a choice is made. I'll write it down.
I love
the reason is when you're doing talk radio, for example, or you're on TV in an interview, you don't have time to do this and go punching around trying to find something. So, and then John laughs at this.
This is awesome too.
John, if John worked as hard as I did, John would have his own version of this. So this is the listing of every free agent who signed in the NFL. It's all handwritten, who signed in the NFL with a specific club. So if I'm doing talk show radio, an Arizona Cardinal fan calls my talk show or calls this podcast, what do you think about this guy? I said, well, they signed this guy, and they lost this guy. That's how you do it. You don't sit here and lie about it or make it up or try to find it on your website or on your computer or on your cell. You can't. Don't. That's my system. It works for me. So be it. Is it archaic? Yeah, it probably is, but it works. I'm sorry, bleeping brilliant.
Well, it's clear that you have a discipline to this, because you, like you say, you gather the information and then you sort of recompile it in the hacksaw format. And then the beauty of that is that process. You're not just reading the stats, you're processing the information, and that way you have so much knowledge in your head. I mean, because as you're writing it out, it's all getting baked into your brain.
You're right. Bleeping brilliant.
It is. It works. It really does. Old school, but it works.
Works for me. All right. Listen, you enjoy the draft. We'll be back Monday at 1:30. Have yourself a great sports weekend. John, same to you. Thanks for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.